Hello, friends. A happy afterlife is not guaranteed just because you die. It is a state you must earn. In this video, we'll look at two sisters in spirit, Alice and Margaret, who have fallen short. They don't live in a hellish environment. They're not evil through and through, but they're deeply flawed and seem unable to forgive each other and move on. They fought over dolls as children and now, in the afterlife, fight over a contested will and over access to their mother. They are tied to each other in mutual hatred. A little sister, Molly, still very much alive on Earth, sits by the medium and tries to help her big sisters to forgive and move on. The famous Irish medium Geraldine Cummins allows each to communicate through her, first one, then the other, and sometimes the sister's mother as well. All three use her hand to write their thoughts, a process known as automatic writing. There are important lessons to be learned here, I think, as we watch the sisters bash each other. This account is taken from Cummins and Gibbs's book, They Survive. Let's listen in. Margaret, using the medium's hand, writes that before Alice's marriage, quote, she ran the house, my mother, and everything else. She was in fact boss and very unpopular with her younger brother and sisters. Alice would never acknowledge that she was in the wrong. A little later, Molly, much younger than her elder sisters, asks her mother if she might shed light on the dispute. Do you know anything about it? What's this trouble all about? The mother then takes the medium's hand and writes, oh yes, I was very upset about it. It reminded me of the old days when they quarreled and I could do nothing with them. I remember when they were quite small children. I came on them, each holding a doll's arm and tugging at it and screaming. The two of them were pulling away at the old doll, again, here, when they once got accustomed to seeing each other over here. You know, I didn't see much of Margaret and Alice until Alice came. Then she used to visit us a great deal. At first, I was very pleased. Then I saw it was partly not to let Alice be the one and only favored daughter. So silly, really, end quote. Alice then took the medium's hand and wrote that Margaret was not at all fond of my mother, but it would be very like her to try and upset arrangements that we had made. At a later sitting, Molly asks her mother if she is happy with Alice's living with her and excluding her from visiting. The mother answers, I am happy because I know I am able in this way to help her, Alice, overcome her unhappiness. I don't mind her taking control of everything. I won't restrain her now. I will let her give her own nature full play. Later she will begin to learn, I hope, and will change. What is essential now is that she should be content, as it would be fatal if she became warped or embittered. Molly, always trying to help, tells her mother that she urged Margaret to put the dispute behind her and find something meaningful to do in her world. The mother answers, but Margaret, my dear, is not likely to respond to your suggestion. She is, as a matter of fact, much harder to help than Alice. She hates change and is naturally indolent. Alice has some very fine things in her, on the contrary, though the poor girl is still so foolish, end quote. At a later sitting, Molly asks Margaret how she's getting along. Things are getting better for me, Margaret replies. Alice taunted me about not having friends here, so I thought I would show her that I had my own circle. So, though I didn't like doing it at all, I looked up strangers. I tried to make the acquaintance of quite unprepossessing people. The result is I have made my circle now. But it wouldn't have been made if it hadn't been for Stephen. You don't know him. He is the man I loathed so much back on Earth, but who has been living with me here now. Well, he isn't so bad after all, though he does upset me still. He's so unmethodical and untidy. Anyway, he quite understood my point of view about Alice and agreed that I must show her that I can manage very well for myself and lead a happy, successful life. So, first he brought in his friends. Some were dreadful people and would have had nothing to do with them if it hadn't been for the thought of Alice. But the funny thing was that after I had got to know them, they didn't seem so dreadful after all. I shut myself away from people too much on Earth. She began to meditate. I'm afraid I was rather self-centered. I've only just been getting to know how kind people can be. And though Stephen and I have rows sometimes still, I am beginning to see that he means very well and isn't out to deceive me or do me in anymore. Margaret continues, after a while Stephen will leave me, but later, after you die, she's addressing Molly, I shall see you, and that will be a joy. Have you thought about my offer? Apparently to live together. Oh yes, Molly replies, but we shall have to see what the conditions are when I come over. Molly then says she wants to say a few words to Alice. Margaret is quick to answer, may I say that I think you are very foolish to talk to Alice? She will only worry you with her temper. But of course, if you want to have a row with her, you can, but you can't say I haven't warned you. But Molly persists. Tell me how you are, she asks Alice. I am so much better, so much happier in spite of Margaret. I put her in her place after some rows, and after that, I went ahead as I told you I should. I am a great success here. At last, I feel I am being appreciated. Alice then changes the subject. Molly, dear, I can tell you how wonderful it is not to have to be cook, housekeeper, charwoman, and nurse to poor John. She's talking about her husband. Don't tell him I said that. Molly comes to John's defense and says, he was very good, really. Alice answers, yes, I shall leave Mother, of course, when he comes over, and we shall make our real home together. Of course, Mother will be sorry to lose me, but I must put John first. I feel it is my duty. He could never look after himself here. Molly answers, he seems to be able to look after himself now quite well. I don't think you need bother. No, Molly, I'm not going to be separated from him. Please understand that. Molly answers, well, I must say you didn't think much of him when you were over there. A funny incident brings out Alice's personality. Miss Cummins, the medium, became momentarily confused over what Alice was trying to convey, and Alice couldn't make herself understood. She erupted in large, sprawling language. Can't you write it, you stupid woman? Miss Cummins, arguably the 20th century's most gifted medium, wrote the insult addressed to her just as it came over. It would be a mistake to conclude that these two sisters are miserable throughout. Margaret at one point says she enjoys traveling over the many regions of the afterworld, and there must be other pleasures that don't get mentioned. The lesson here is that resentments carried over from our world to the next can poison the pleasant atmosphere of the astral environment. We should all keep this in mind. I'm Stafford Betty, the Afterlife Professor. You can learn more about me and my work at my website, staffordbetty.com, and you can depend on cheerier news in my next video. Have a good evening.